Let's go for it.
Sweet. All right. So we're going to start off the show with Muhammad from California. Pronouns are he, him. Says that we have fundamental assumptions that humans are special or unique. And you find that naturalism is dangerous because it takes that away. Muhammad, how are you doing today? And is that a fair summary of what you were calling in about?
Good, my brother. Yes, that's what I want to talk about.
Radical. Did you want to elaborate at all on that, or can we just jump off from that? Because I immediately have a million things I want to say, but I want to have you call in and just sit there and listen to me. I want to hear from you too. You know.
Yeah. Of course, I have stuff to say. So, yeah, like lately I've been like really getting into like kind of existentialism. Like looking into the works of like researching on like Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and these kind of philosophers. And it's like it's really scary because it's like I feel like existentialism is it really like it talks about like the really deep stuff, like those deep like the deepest assumptions we have about things. And I feel that civilization, society, it's built on these kind of assumptions that humans are unique and humans are special. And I feel like when you have that realization, that it's scary, because if you take that away, it's like what foundation, what fundamental assumption can we build on to have society and civilization? And I feel like kind of this whole thing with
Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you're still speaking. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please continue.
Yeah, that I feel like this whole thing with AI nowadays, and like kind of the thing with that movie, what's it called, Ex Machina, something like that. That movie is really scary, because like the implications of it is that humans, like there's nothing unique about us. There's nothing special, that we're just like any other creature, any other organism, and there's no fundamentally no difference between us and anything else. And I feel like that's going down like this naturalism kind of way of seeing things, where I feel like if you're truly a naturalist, it's scary. The implications are very scary, because it's like there's nothing special about it.
Can I ask you about that? Because that's where I'm confused. Because like, from my understanding of the domain of naturalism, it's very big. So there's a position called moral naturalism. Are you familiar with that?
No.
You should, if this interests you, you should look into moral naturalism, because a lot of people who call themselves naturalists or use that term, which to define it specifically might be a headache. I mean, you probably have to ask somebody what they mean by the term, but a lot of them are moral naturalists. Like they think morality is objective, for example. I don't share the same views, but main point being is I don't see. Seems like your view on naturalism entails nihilism, and I don't really understand that.
I also like there's a few things there that jump out to me, and so like just for context, like this isn't about me, but just so you know, like what you're talking about, you're coming from this point of just studying existentialism. I actually really vibe with nihilism, especially cosmic nihilism. That's one of my favorite schools of philosophy. And I also am, as a person who I'm a biologist, I study biology for a living. I have several degrees in biology. Naturalism is my bread and butter. Like understanding that, the same processes that affect me also affect everything else, and there's no evidence of anything special or supernatural. That's a big part of my understanding of the universe. And also, you said that, humans aren't special and we're no different than any other organism. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We're not special. We're just another organism. And if this entire planet were wiped out tomorrow by some horrible cosmic accident, nothing changes for, any other galaxy anywhere else. Jupiter's just fine. So I don't think that I or humanity or this planet or anything else in the universe is special, because we are the same thing as everything else. And yet, I still think that I'm a good person and I still do good things and I still try to make the world shiny and better just because that's, I think, the right thing to do. So like I have several questions about what you're talking about as far as like, this idea that if we don't see humans as something special, we would have some scary end result of that. I would challenge that not only from a philosophical standpoint, but also from a cultural standpoint. And I would love to get into that, but I want to hear your response to just what Jmike and I said first. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit about, different cultural perspectives on humanity that I think is really relevant to what you were saying.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I haven't heard of, moral, like naturalist, kind of a moral naturalist. And, I like to be kind of enlightened and kind of know new things. I just say, though, that, look, like, us humans, we need to have value, right? Like, we can't just think that we have no worth, that we're nothing. That's very
to be clear, I didn't say that we have no worth or that we're nothing. I said that we are no more special than anything else, so we shouldn't put ourselves on a pedestal. Of course, I'm going to value human life over other life because I live in this society, but that's only in terms of like making sure that life is hospitable for us, not in terms of like taking away from other life to try to benefit us. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like, I'm not saying humans are worthless. I'm just saying we're not that special.
This might help clear things up for me. And this is just a question. I don't want to derail the questions that Forrest wants to ask you, but this might help me for the remainder of the conversation. Is it important to you for like an external type of purpose? Is that what you care about? Because I can go into why I think that has very uncomfortable outcomes. Mohammed?
Did we lose you?
We might have. Oh, man.
It says he's still on the line. If you're there, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear us?
Is this about an extrinsic purpose or goal type of thing? I just trying to make sure I'm tracking your concern.
No. I'll be honest with you. This is where I'm coming from. That I see that us humans, right, that we have these fundamental assumptions that, kind of this whole thing with AI right now and all that, it's bringing these fundamental assumptions to the surface, right? And what it's bringing to the surface is like these beliefs that we're special and that we derive value from that we are unique. And I feel like if you take those beliefs away, where do we derive value from? Because
okay, so this is great. That's actually exactly what I wanted to get to. That's perfect. So really quickly, just I'm assuming, okay, so let me ask you this. It says you're a theist on the call screen. Do you have a particular religious belief that you would feel comfortable espousing?
Yeah, like, I'm like a Muslim. I was raised a Muslim.
Okay, cool.
But
I'm
not here.
I'm pretty sure. Sorry? I don't think that you're here trying to convert me to Islam. I don't think you're espousing, any of that. I just or proselytizing at all. But like, I just want to understand where you're coming from in terms of your worldview, because I'm pretty sure that in Islam there is a concept of something very akin to the Garden of Eden. That it's like that we were made in a sort of pristine, pure, perfect form, and then we ate from the tree of knowledge and were kicked out of paradise. Is there something like that in Islam? I don't want to, I'm not super familiar with it.
Yeah, there's like the Adam and Eve story. Honestly, even myself, like, I don't know it like depth like that, but
that's fine. I just want to make sure that like I'm on the same page, because I'm 99% sure that it's pretty much the same story as in the Christian Bible, but I know there's a couple of differences, but I'm not familiar with them, and I don't want to say a bunch of shit about your religion and then have it be like, well, you're very wrong about these things. So if we can, start from that, take a look at that story. What that story is at its core, no matter what the details are, is that we were made to have dominion over this land. We were put here in a special position, and then we blew it, and we were kicked out of paradise, and now we have to, struggle and suffer and starve and die and all these things. And, looking at life that way, it makes sense that you would want to say, oh, we're very special and we're very unique, and we're the ones that we should be framing our society around. And a lot of Western culture is built upon that kind of worldview, because a lot of Western culture is built upon, or built by people who were raised in Abrahamic religious cultures. So even though I wouldn't say that, America is a Christian nation founded on Christianity or anything like that, for sure, the people who founded America had that kind of mentality because that's the kind of culture they grew up in. Compare that, for example, to there's a phenomenal book called Braiding Sweetgrass by a lady named Kimmerer. I don't remember her first name off the top of my head, but she is a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation. So she's a Native American, the Potawatomi tribe, and she talks about the foundational myths of her society. And one of them is the story of Sky Woman. And I'm going to, synthesize this down just the same way as at the Garden of Eden. I'm going to leave a lot of stuff out, but long story short, this woman fell from the sky and the earth was all water, and the animals stopped her from falling to death and protected her. And then they found some land for her to live on, and she spread the land out on the back of a turtle, I believe it was. And she had seeds in her hand. She planted the seeds, and that is where all the plants and everything on the earth grew. So she, with the help of the creatures that were already here, made dry land and made the earth, the wildlife around us. And so now in that culture, with that kind of worldview, with that kind of framework, even if you don't believe this is true, with that kind of framework in your mind, you no longer see humans are this special thing and the whole earth was made just for us and we have domain over the land and we broke the rules and got kicked out of paradise. No, we're the youngest ones here. We have the most to learn from everybody else. We helped make this place, and this place is a beautiful garden for everybody to live in, for everybody to thrive from. Nobody owns anything, and we're all benefiting from this thing that was made with everybody's cooperation and help. So do you see how, looking at these two different lenses, not that these are the two ends of the spectrum, there's a lot of other ideas, but looking at the world from these two different worldviews, these two different lenses, you have a very different understanding of what words like special and important and things like that mean. We're not special. We're not the most important ones here. We're just another animal. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we have a different place in the society, not as a ruler, but as a cooperator, as a brother and a sister. And this is, of course, like I said, this is just one example of one other culture that I remember off the top of my head because I remember reading a book about it. But me as a scientist, I have a very similar way of thinking. We evolved about 200,000 years ago from other apes. We're just humans are just another species of great apes that happen to do some really cool stuff. But we need this world to live. We need biodiversity. We need functional ecosystems. We need other life to survive. If we destroy this planet and wipe out half the life on it and kill a bunch of plants and animals and destroy, then we are also going to die because we rely on those things for food and water and oxygen. The term ecosystem services is a really cool thing to look into in ecology. The work that other life does to make this planet habitable. So I don't see us as special. I see us as cooperative partners in this ecosystem, in this biosphere called Earth. That doesn't mean that I think human life is worthless. It just means that I don't put us on a pedestal and sacrifice other life and other values and other, organisms for our benefit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I didn't keep track of everything you were saying.
I said a lot of shit. I didn't expect you to. It's fine.
Yeah, look, this is my only point. I'm coming at this from a moral perspective. I'm not here trying to debate theology, and I'm just saying that. Look, this is what I feel. That.
Yeah, but we already showed. We already showed. But hold on, real quick, Mohammed. We already showed why that moral concern wouldn't be an issue, right? Because naturalism doesn't entail nihilism, doesn't entail anti-realism. In fact, if you look at the Phil Papers survey from 2006 or 2020, either one, majority of the people that answer the meta-ethical questions of whether or not they're a moral realist or not, majority of those say yes, and 73% answer atheist on that. Not to say atheism is true or something, but just to express that's a whole shit ton of atheists that are saying that they believe in objective morality. Not saying that I or any naturalist has to. The whole point of that is that if you have this, because in the call screener notes, it said that you think naturalism is dangerous. And then you seem to affirm that by bringing up the moral thing, which I apologize for cutting you off so quick, but I don't really see the concern, right? Because there are positions, whether they work or not, it's a different question, but it doesn't entail that you have to have this like nihilistic account of life. And then even if it did, I mean, I just seem to care about what's true. I don't really like this whole, is there utility? Do we look at ourselves special? Like, I don't really that. I mean, that might be useful for some people. That's not useful for me at all. I don't really care about that. I care about like whether or not this is true. Right? My values are going to depend on a lot of what I think is true.
Yeah. You know, I definitely get that. You know, I see it like this, that, you know, there's a verse in the Quran that says, you know, that Allah, he honored the children of Adam, right? And he like preferred them over, I don't know the verse exactly, but it's talking about how like God honored the children of Adam and stuff like this. And I feel like, you know, scripture, what it does is you can derive that we have inherent value from scripture, right?
I could derive that from Harry Potter. I could derive that from I can derive that from any book, Muhammad. The point is the concern I have is not whether or not you can derive utility or value from what someone utters, right? What a speaker utters. I don't really care. Like, I care about whether or not what they're saying, right? What the utterance is, whether or not that tracks or corresponds to reality in some way. So like, sure, I could take values from like Cat in the Hat or something. Like, I don't really see what it is that matters because especially when you open the frame of metaphorical or allegorical, like I don't constrain my reasoning. I mean, you can pick anything you want. You can read anything you want out of that. So I just don't know why that should have a tier list like above where truth would lay, right? Wouldn't you want the values that you derive from to be true?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So how do we go about
like,
that?
Again, mm-hmm. Hello?
Yeah, I was just saying, how do we go about that? Like, because if you want to cite I kind of want to cut it off at the source in a sense, and not like you derive this value and you know, look at what this does. It makes society work, or whatever the entailment that you have is. I care about if in fact what you're pulling from has any good reason to think it's true. And so I'm curious on like what method it is you use when you look at that to say that it's valuable, why you should care, why I should care, why anybody should care.
You know, like I feel like, you know, I've been, you know, I've kind of like, you know, I've thought about this. You know, I kind of take like, you know, Jordan Peterson's position on like, you know, kind of our morals, like, are they faith-based? Are they, you know, based? Is the basis for them like rationality, like kind of like logic? And, you know, I feel like, you know, for me, I see that, you know, I think.
Do you know sorry, Muhammad, you said Jordan Peterson. You do realize that Jordan Peterson thinks that there are things that are more true than true just by being a story about something, right? Archetypal narratives and whatnot. I don't really see like what is Jordan Peterson doing if he already has this like ambiguous notion of truth. We're going to talk past each other really quickly because I don't take his notion of what true is. And if you look to Jordan Peterson, it seems like you're going to be able to make a lot of these mental gymnastics in order for you to say, well, it's more true than true. And what is it that you mean by meaning, or what is it that you mean by is, right? Like, none of that's useful. It's like, is there a methodology? You talked about assumptions. I'm all about assumptions, but I'm all about testing our assumptions, right? Could we do that with the assumptions that you think we take? Can we test them to see if they correspond reality in any way?
Yeah, look, I get what you're saying. I'm not like denying it or like saying, hey, this is not, you know, I like, you know, do you know, I'm just saying this, that I feel like a religious worldview, Islam, Christianity, it gives human beings inherent value. You could derive that from these scriptures, but what other source can you derive
if you assume that it's true?
Inherent value?
Muhammad, if you assume it's true, why is it true?
That also, like, you know, you're talking about, you know, you can derive that humans have inherent value from the scripture. You don't need to get it from that scripture. There's plenty of other places you can get that. Just you know, caring about other people gives you inherent value. But again, as I said earlier, you don't need to think that as well. Like, certainly think that humans have inherent value in the same way that I think anything has some inherent value of being a thing. But I don't think that humans are any more valuable than anything else. The only reason that I care about human life is because I live in a society amongst other humans, and so like I am, evolutionarily programmed to care a little bit more about my own species and to value human life. That's it's not like it's something that I just don't care, but I guess I have to. It's that I care about other people. I care about their happiness. I care about their well-being. I care about who they are as a person, and making sure that they're comfortable. And that's where I base my morality on is human well-being. But I don't need to think that we're special or more important than anything, or that the universe should revolve around us, or anything like that. It's like that. I don't
Or
understand why you
from
need
text,
this thing that you're saying.
or from text that expresses dominion over women, right? I mean, I
Yes.
don't see the value. Because you're just going to talk, oh, this book, great, that's fine. There's a book. I see things that don't align with my value, so I'm not going to make that assumption. I'm going to go, how can I test this to be true? And then
Right.
we would come to the fact of this thing that I think is horrible is true, but I have to accept that it's true. But I'm not seeing, like, it just seems like we're skipping the whole step, right? The whole like important thing to do, which is, how do I know the thing that I base my values on, or that I think reflects the reality around me, is actually reflecting the reality around me, and is actually reflecting true values out there? Like, how do you do that, right? You can't just say a book says a thing. Lots of books say things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, like, I said that, ultimately it is faith-based, right? And it's not based in, like, kind of scientific or
Over then,
rational.
Muhammad, then it's done.
Yeah,
Then it's
that's
over,
the whole
right?
thing then.
There's no point in having a conversation anymore. We just might as well move on. If you only have faith and you've just said it's not a rational thing, then you don't have good reasons to believe what you believe, and so that's fine. But you should, I mean, if you're talking about value and all these things that matter, but then somehow turn around to say, like, there's no logic or reason, it's just faith. Well, why not take faith on any other set of values that conflict with those set of values, right? In virtue of what are the ones you're taking on faith better, or the right ones, in compared to the ones that I take? Let's just say I take some on faith, right? It seems like we have a disagreement and we have to enter something in, like evidence or an argument or some type of consideration. Otherwise, if we just stop there, it's not to be rude, it's just literally we can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Unless we want to open the conversation back up to evidence.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like we all have faith in something. That I don't think, like, someone's just a purely, he just bases everything, all of his, just every belief in logic or science. I don't think that's true. And I see that, science is, I don't want to get into another topic, but, I see that scientific knowledge, like, that source of knowledge, it's limited. It can't tap into everything.
So hold on a second, because like we've been, so Mohammed, I'm sorry, we've been going for 20 minutes, and I've got to move on to the next caller, but I just want to ask just really quickly, as succinctly as you can, because I want to make sure that you are well represented. You have the last word. I don't want to, like, put words in your mouth. What Jmike just said was really important, and I want to just hear your answer to it. What's the difference if you say you have a faith-based position that humans have inherent value, and I say I have a faith-based position that humans don't have inherent value? How do we know which one of us has a better position? Is there a way to reconcile that? Is there a way to find which one is true or which one's better? Or does it fall apart because we both have a faith-based position?
Yeah, or do we just kick rocks?
Yeah, like, I can't answer that right now because, like, I have to, like, reflect on it and think.
That's an amazing answer. That's an amazing
answer.
That's an amazing answer.
Yeah. So I tell you what, man, I've got to move on to the next caller because we've been going for 20 minutes and we have a limited time on the show. But I encourage you, please do reflect on it and think about it. And if you want to call back in another show, I usually only do a show once a month. I don't know how much Jmike does it, but if you can try to call him when we're on, that would be cool. I'd love to.
I'll be on next week. I'll take your call next week.
There you go. Well. Yeah, if you want to call in next week and talk to Jmike about it more, I'm sure we would love to talk to you about it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Muhammad. I really appreciate you calling in. A super nice dude.